Welcome to the Career Slay podcast, the show where we interview people who love their jobs and discuss career growth, fearless leadership, and creating a life you love. I'm your host, Kelly Pokes-Burke, a marketer turned executive coach, and I'm here to help you lead with courage and slay the fear in career. If you're a fan of these conversations and want to dive deeper into your own career and leadership questions, book a coaching discovery call with me at careerslay.com. Dr. Emmanuel Bello-Ogunu is a principal cybersecurity engineer at the MITRE Corporation, where he's focused on cyber operations and effects, mobile and embedded device security, and critical infrastructure protection. He started at MITRE in 2016 after obtaining a degree in computer science at the University of Notre Dame and a PhD in computing and information systems from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. In the past 8 years at MITRE, Emmanuel has brought his experience to bear for a variety of missions and government sponsors. He currently serves as principal investigator for a MITRE independent research and development program focused on protecting critical infrastructure through collaboration, collection, and correlation, and a project leader for a groundbreaking cyber defense program for an international partner. Emmanuel dedicates himself to improving the cybersecurity posture and effectiveness of various government sponsors' missions by tailoring and operationalizing technical research, developing cyber capabilities, and expanding the knowledge base of threat intelligence related to their existing capabilities. Reflecting back on my conversation with Emmanuel, I'm grateful and inspired. Emmanuel was one of my first friends in college, and it's amazing to see how far we've come since our time at Notre Dame. We talked about his journey in cybersecurity and his commitment to making a positive impact through his work. It's truly admirable, and it reminds me that there are real-life superheroes out there. His perspective on career growth and overcoming self-doubt deeply resonated with me. This episode not only allowed us to reconnect, but also provided valuable insights for you, our listeners, on navigating a meaningful career path. I'm honored to have had the opportunity to share his story and wisdom on Career Slay. Welcome to Career Slay, Emmanuel.
Thanks, Kelly. It's good to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here. And we go way back. We first met at Notre Dame.
Yep.
And you were like one of my best friends.
Easily.
So we're going to go even further back. Mm-hmm. And I want you to tell me, what were you like as a child?
Okay. As a child, I was very shy. I think I would be one of those people that is like a practiced extrovert now, but inherently still very shy. And that's since childhood. Growing up as the oldest of 7, I also felt I was very particular about like responsibility and setting a good example and, wanting to do right by parents and family and friends and all the above. It was a lot of who I was as a kid. Yeah. Being the middle child, I feel none of that. Must be nice.
I just do what I want.
That's fair. I think it's kind of informed like a lot of the types of roles I've taken. I find that I've always gravitated to like roles where I'm in like a mentoring or a fostering position just because that's, a big brother by nature.
Yeah. No, you definitely take on that role a lot, even with me. So how did you decide that you wanted to go to Notre Dame?
Oh, great question. So funny enough, I had not heard a lot about the school before going. I'd seen Rudy like most people. And then turns out I had a good friend from high school. His name is John Vu. And so found out he was applying. And, as one does in high school, you're trying to figure out where all your friends are going. And I was like, I've heard of that one at least. Let me look into it. Mm-hmm. I checked it out. I mentioned it to my parents, especially my dad, because he was a professor as well, came up in academia. And so was very big on all of the different schools and what they had to offer. Like he knew those like the back of his hand, right? So I mentioned Notre Dame. It's like prestigious university, Catholic, of course. And we were a big Catholic family. And so for him, it was like a no-brainer, like you should apply immediately. And so I did, and I happened to get in. I didn't get a chance to visit beforehand. So I was really just going off of like,
You didn't even visit?
I had not visited before.
What?
So this was based off of like a friend who I happened to know was going, glowing endorsement from my dad, and then what I knew about it from the movie Rudy. Like that is what informed my decision.
So did you know what you were going to study when you got to Notre Dame?
I had an idea. When I got there, I started out as computer engineering. I ended up with a bachelor's of science in computer science. The difference there in curriculum was really, there are a few additional like electrical engineering courses that you'd have to take. I took my first one and realized that wasn't for me. So I quickly pivoted, still within the same department, but different program.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what computer science is?
Oh,
I know. I do marketing, so I have no idea.
So it's broad. It's a broad field. In my perspective, it's taking a different type of language or other forms of language. So instead of like, the English language or the French language, like you're taking written language that a computer could understand, and you're taking that to create things, to create programs, software, tools that can help you in your daily life, can help automate, can help, I guess, be the seams that connect the different fabrics of technology that we use.
So you're like a coder?
I can code.
Okay.
I don't know if I do it so much in my day-to-day. I still use a lot of Python, if you've heard of that. I do some web development on the side, so HTML, CSS, JavaScript. But all these are just like languages that I'm using to build things for other people to use.
Interesting.
Yeah.
After Notre Dame, what did you do?
Yeah, so after Notre Dame, I pursued a master's and then a doctorate degree in cybersecurity. Yeah.
Tell me more. Like, why did you pick, is that a specific like lane or specialty within computer science?
I'd say it is adjacent to computer science. Cybersecurity itself is also a very broad field. And so there are different disciplines, different applications of that field. But if you have computer science skills, like if you have that foundation, that can help you, again, write things, build things to help provide security to the tools or the platforms that other people are using. Yeah. So for me, it was a logical next step, but I think it was also informed by things that were happening around me. I started my master's in 2011. Around that time, there was this called the Stuxnet worm. And so this was something that there was malware that had been written, and it was impacting like the nuclear generators in Iran. And so this was like a cybersecurity attack that made global news, right?
Wow.
And this was right around the time where I was trying to figure out, I knew I wanted to pursue an advanced degree, but what field, what discipline, like what would be next? And so that was like front and center as far as me and the world that I operated in. Not too far after that was also a pretty big like breach for the Sony PlayStation Network, right? And so coder, gamer, like these are things where, okay, I'm aware of these areas, and I'm also seeing how these attacks are impacting these disciplines as well. And so it's like, okay, I think this is a niche I want to pursue.
Yeah.
And that started me on that path.
Going back to who you said you were as a child and what your personality was as a child, what was it about those, global issues that made you want to just kind of jump in and be like, I want to help?
So I think one thing I left out from the kind of person I was as a child, I was fascinated with like superheroes. And so that is still very much a part of who I am today. But I think that innate sense of wanting to contribute to good, right? To make a positive impact in the world in some capacity. I think that was something that spoke to me, and didn't necessarily know how I would go about doing that when I started, college and grad school even, but just recognizing that if I could take the skills, the tools that I have and apply that to like do good, to make the world a better place, cheesy as it sounds, like that was something that would speak to me.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I do remember that you were obsessed with superheroes.
Absolutely. I'm not shy about it.
Yeah. So where did you pursue your PhD?
I was at UNC Charlotte in North Carolina. Both my master's and my PhD were completed there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to go all the way to get a PhD and not just stop at a master's?
Yeah, another great question. It's certainly not required in my field. You could get a great job, a well-paying job, an impactful job just right out of college. And master's even opens doors. But I think the doctorate was very much a personal passion. Like, it's something I knew I wanted to pursue. Definitely shout out to my dad again, being in academia, him having a doctorate in communications, and from an early age harping on like the importance of education and the opportunities that it could afford. And so I knew I wanted to get an advanced degree. I knew if I was going to do it, it would be best to do it all in one shot early on, because I just recognized how difficult it might be once you're in a good paying job and you're secure and it's, do I really need to go back to school if I'm already working in this space? But I think that for me, it made sense without even knowing it. The where I landed after my doctorate was a space where, tons of people have doctorate degrees. You have MDs, PhDs, scientists, researchers. And again, it's everyone trying to solve problems for a safer world. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was something that it just made sense to do if I wanted to know that I had maximized on all the opportunities in front of me. Right?
Yeah. And it's cool that you decided to take that extra step and kind of be the subject matter expert in your field, especially when you're going to be surrounded by other subject matter experts.
Right.
And you have that caliber of colleague. Mm-hmm. So what did you end up doing after your PhD?
After my PhD, I ended up at a place called the MITRE Corporation. And so taking a step back, my master's and my PhD were both funded through a scholarship, federally funded. It was called Scholarship for Service. Mm-hmm. And so they would pay for school. They would provide a stipend. They would make sure my needs were met while I was in school. And for an equivalent number of years that they covered in school, the expectation is that I would work in support of the federal or state or local government even after school.
That's awesome.
And so that afforded me opportunities to intern with places like DHS, Department of Homeland Security, mm-hmm. with the FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Mm-hmm. And then I also interned at IBM Research in addition to these federally funded internships. And so I think the breadth of those opportunities help guide me towards what kind of like post-school career I wanted to have. One that would be in support of the federal government, part of the requirement for my scholarship, but also a desire by mm-hmm. that time. And then also one that kind of leveraged research and cutting edge research at that towards specific problems, like not just let's see what's in the art of the possible, but here's a real problem. We don't know the solution, but we want to apply all the skills and tools we have at our disposal to figure out how do we get from A to B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say makes you successful in your day-to-day job?
I think I'd boil it down to humility, like recognizing that I don't know everything and I'm not expected to.
Mm-hmm. But you're a doctor.
One of many. And I think recognizing that, moving together as a team, collaborating, like MITRE is such a firm proponent of collaboration. Mm-hmm. I think coming up through school and especially my doctorate program where the expectation is, it's on you to figure out, what is this problem you're trying to address? What's the novel solution you're coming up with? And it's you by yourself defending that, right, during your dissertation mm-hmm. defense. And so I came into MITRE thinking I had to be the primary problem solver. Mm-hmm. And MITRE helped me unlearn that and recognize, no, you have a breadth of knowledge and all of your colleagues here. So let's work together to find a solution. And so
I love to hear that because, it seems that in any organization or industry, it's the sum of the parts.
Yes.
Versus the individuals that really provide the solution.
Definitely.
So that's super cool. So can you super simply explain what does a cybersecurity engineer do? Like, I'm still thinking you're like Mr. Robot and you're just like fighting bad guys like that.
So it takes many forms, right? So my flavor of cybersecurity tends to come in the form of working hand in hand with people in the field, representatives of different government agencies who we see as sponsors of our work, right? So we work in collaboration with them to figure out what threats exist to their environments, to their people, mm-hmm. To their practices. What can we do to protect that, right, mm-hmm. from a cybersecurity perspective? So sometimes that takes the form of coding. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that takes the form of requirements gathering, like just understanding what are your needs as a fill-in-the-blank person.
Yeah.
It's often a mix of like either technical development, but not done in a vacuum. It's done in collaboration with our government partners to understand, like, okay, you have a website that is providing this service, right? Let's take the COVID-19 pandemic, right? And so let's say there is a website they stood up for you to be able to go and figure out where your local
vaccine is.
Yeah, vaccine location is, right? And so there's a lot of information that the general public would be using in order to figure out, am I contagious? What's the nearest site? Like all of that. And that is a treasure trove of data for bad guys, right?
Yeah.
Adversaries.
Yeah.
And so that federal website is something that maybe that agency would come to MITRE and say, hey, we want to make sure that this data is locked down.
Yeah.
The website is still usable, user-friendly, and it's something that we're providing a service to the public. Can you help us ensure that all of this is both safe, secure, usable, all the above, right?
Got it. So it's like data becomes your currency and you're like a banker. You're trying to protect your data.
Exactly.
Trying to protect your currency.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. That makes sense to me. That checks out.
Yep. Yeah. And it the nature of it changes with the sponsor that we're supporting, but ultimately the mission is the same, right? Protect people, protect the agency, protect the data that exists in that.
How does AI change how you start to look at your day-to-day job?
It changes it in a number of ways. One, it's something that everyone is well aware of now, right? It's been around for years, like decades even, in different iterations. But now it's accessible and people are understanding of its potential, at least initially, right?
Yeah.
There's so much more that we could do with it than we're at now, but that also introduces a lot of risk. And so, again, that could be an adversary trying to leverage AI to write malware, to infect systems for the government agencies that we support. And now we have to move faster, right? We have to be proactive versus reactive in order to defend against those things. And it could also just be the fact that, like, we too might want to try to leverage AI to build defenses against adversaries. But we have to be careful about what information we feed into these systems as well.
Right.
In case adversaries get their hands on the models or the training data that's being used here. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like a really hard job.
Yeah. I'm
a really
not
important
lucky.
one. It sounds really important.
Definitely.
How do you manage having such a high pressure job and kind of the repercussions of making a mistake in that type of role?
One, I think it goes back to the fact that it is a collaborative effort. And so in any kind of solutions that we're trying to provide, it's not all on one person to figure out or to solve. And I trust the people that I work with to fill any gaps that I might have in knowledge and expertise, and vice versa, right? So that we're all collectively bringing things to the table that make sure that we are absolutely doing the best that we can, delivering the best possible solution. That being said, we recognize that sometimes it feels like we are playing a game of catch up. You'll hear this often in cybersecurity, where the good guys have to defend every gate, every door, every possible vulnerability, and the bad guys only have to poke a hole in one.
Yeah.
And so the knowledge that you have to kind of be on your A game all the time, that can be daunting, right? And I think it's recognizing that even the sponsors that we're working with have this trust in MITRE as an organization. Like, they know that we are trustworthy. They know that we are serving in the interest of public good. We're not selling things. We're not here to say we are delivering a better service than this person, but whatever that best solution looks like, we are there to make sure that you get it.
Yeah.
Right? Even if it's not from us. Being surrounded by a lot of people that are driven by the mission like that, it helps, right? It's a reminder that we're here, we're doing the right thing, even if I think we're doing good, we're making good progress.
Why is it important to be driven by a mission in your day-to-day work or find meaningful work?
I think it's important because it is not always going to be easy. it can be frustrating. It can be just difficult, right? Trying to keep up with the adversaries that are working against us as a nation, us as a community, right? Us as people. And so if I feel like what I'm doing isn't impactful, if I can't necessarily see the impact of it, it doesn't make sense for me to focus all that time and energy. I think I would just get overwhelmed and feel like this isn't where I could be spending this amount of energy, right?
Yeah, especially since you spent so many years learning your expertise, becoming a subject matter expert.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any challenges that you've had to overcome?
Yeah, it's difficult, but I think if I had to pinpoint one that keeps reoccurring, I think it's like any level of self-doubt that I might have, right? Trying to overcome that in the face of recognizing I am accomplished and I have a lot of potential and there's so much that I've done and am doing that is beyond what a lot of people get an opportunity to do. That being said, that self-doubt still creeps in every now and then.
I'm smiling because I'm like, a male PhD who's working at like one of the top places for cybersecurity in the country, keeping us all safe. You still have imposter syndrome?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're like a real life superhero. You know that?
I like to think so, but
I love that.
I will tell myself I am.
And maybe that's the narrative you got to tell yourself to pump yourself up, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I think, having an alter ego helps me feel like I'm whatever, deficiencies or doubts I have, like I can put that aside and put on this other hat or cape as it may be.
Yes, it's a cape,
right? And,
for sure.
And decide, no, this is who I am and this is what I have to offer. And I also feel like this is why it's important to have like role models or examples in the spaces that you're in so that I can look to people and be inspired and want to be like that. And then try to shape that narrative that I'm telling myself that like, okay, if this person can get there, then so can I.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about mentorship. How has that helped you in your career and played a role in your career?
Yeah, I think it's been significant both as someone who has done the mentoring and also being mentored by someone as well. So taking MITRE, for example, currently a group leader, so a direct supervisor for early career professionals, people that are relatively new or fresh out of school and making their way at MITRE. And so that program is called the Cyber New Professionals. And so there I had an opportunity to stand up a mentoring program where these staff would be paired with more senior engineers within the division or within the organization in order to help, again, provide an example of ways that you can move within MITRE. And I think that in standing that up, I wanted to kind of set the example by seeking a mentor myself. And so I reached out to a director pretty high up. Her name is Charlotte Farmer. She's not at MITRE anymore, but when she was this kind of beaming, bright personality. She was a person of color like myself, and she was somebody that was an example of how high you could get, and just how vibrant and connected you could be in this space. And so this was somebody that I was like, let me shoot my shot, so to speak, and reach out to her and see if she even has the time of day to meet with me on a regular basis and just allow me to soak up some of that energy so I can learn a thing or two. And without hesitation, she did. She made time. And it really helped me feel like I had whatever foundation I already had. I felt like there was even more support. There was like a single person that I could just trust and consult at every step I was trying to make within MITRE. And I felt like that was helpful because without that, no matter how far you get, you don't want to feel like you are just kind of flying by the seat of your pants and figuring it out as you go.
Feeling untethered.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think she was that. She was a tether.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So looking back, what advice would you tell your 20-year-old self?
My 20-year-old self.
I knew your 20-year-old self.
Yeah. Senior year of college. Not to feel like you had it all figured out. I think it goes back to just recognizing where those moments of self-doubt would creep in the most. And that was certainly one of those points. And so encouraging myself to know that it works out favorably. Like you might not see the big picture now. And even now, when I sit back and look at all the things that led me to here, it only makes sense when I'm on this side of it, right? It actually, all of these things and all the steps and all the directions I took actually make a lot of sense leading up to how I got here. But in those moments, they seem like disparate points of data, right? Not connected at all. I'm just...
Yeah. There's no correlation. It's a scatter plot.
Exactly. But you have to zoom out to be able to see where that regression line goes. So
yeah. Oh, that's super nerdy.
You started it.
I feel that a lot. I think when you're in the moment of uncertainty or you're in a transitional period of your career, sometimes it feels like you're just completely lost.
Yeah.
And then when you take a step back or you look back and see how far you've come, you actually get to see the view.
Exactly. Yep. And it's a good view.
Yeah. If you had to sum up your career thus far in 3 words, what would those be?
First, I would describe it as microcosmic in that I've been at the same place at MITRE working for about 7 years now. And it's twice as long as I thought I would be there, partly because of the scholarship that I had. For me, the requirement was 3 years. And I was seeing those 3 years at a time. But in that time, I've done so many different projects. Like I've worn so many different hats. It's been different every year of my time there. And I feel like I've had several careers just in this one company that I've been at. Mm-hmm. And so in that way, it's like a microcosm of what I anticipate will be different experiences that I'll have over the course of my entire career. But I've had so much opportunity just in this short period of time. And I'm grateful for that. With that comes challenge. So challenging is how I would describe it as well. Needing to stay current on technologies, needing to stay tuned to different types of people that I'm working with across all of these different projects, year in, year out. It's different. It's always been different. And then rewarding, certainly. The fact that I can look at the work that I do, have a choice in that work as well, and also know that it is going towards things that are in service to people and in service of good. That's the North Star by which I would want my entire career to be focused on, right? Like, am I doing things for good? Am I having as broad of an impact as I possibly can?
It's really inspiring. I think, for a lot of us, we see jobs as transactional. Mm-hmm. You do work for money. And I think the way that you view career, it's really purposeful. It's Definitely. What am I going to every day? What am I waking myself up for every day? And how can I help the people around me live a better life?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud to be your friend.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Eman, for sharing your story on Career Slay. This was such an awesome conversation, and I'm so glad we got to catch up.
Likewise. This is my first time doing a podcast, so thank you for the opportunity.
You were excellent.
Thank you.
The Career Slay podcast is a co-production of Career Slay and Weld Reply, produced by Michael Berg. If you like the show, subscribe and leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you're ready to level up, pivot, or lead with confidence, book a coaching discovery call with me at careerslay.com.